Go back into South Bend's history. 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and what do you see? You see people working to bring change to this city. They had different ideas of what that should be. They didn't always agree. Yet, in every decade, there were those for whom positive change was their life's work. This podcast, South Bend's Own Words, features the voices of people who made this city change. We'll share clips from oral histories done by the Indiana University South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center that tell a more complete history. It's the story of many cultures, not just one. It's the story of South Bend. Gail Brodie lived her entire life in her beloved West Side community. She even has an honorary street named after her. Her mother, Annette Brodie, was a longtime community activist during the late 1960s. Annette pushed city leaders to provide basic services like paving dusty dirt streets. Gail took on her mother's community work and became as trusted and as vital a resource. The West Side community has a lot of diversity, and Gail's experience was not the same as others. While many did live in poverty, Gail bought her parents' modest but comfortable home. And as a generational homeowner, she had a privilege and a perspective different than some of her neighbors. In 2007, Doctors Les Lamon and Monica Tetzlaff, along with student Derek Webb, sat down with Gail. They talked about her upbringing in the shadows of her mother's community leadership, her unique perspectives on the community's evolution, and how she answered her own call to community service.
Thank you, Derek. Ms. Brodie, as I mentioned earlier, a good way for us to start off here is for you to give us a little of your background. Where in the neighborhood did you live?
I live on Lake Street, right in the middle of what they call the lake.
The lake, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and is that the family home? Is that
yes, that was the family home.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And I'm still there.
Yeah, right.
Still there fighting the cause.
Yes. When you said your family moved here when you were, I believe,
9 years old, yes.
So about 1951?
51, 52, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that neighborhood in 1951, 52 was no more than 50-50 black and perhaps Polish or Hungarian.
Well, the actual neighborhood that they called the lake was mostly all minority.
Okay.
The Polish people lived like on the outsides, like on Sheridan.
Okay, yeah.
Where we lived was majority was Polish, and African Americans were starting to move into the area. And all of the kids that I went to school with, most of my friends were Polish kids, and we walked to school together because I was welcome in their home. They were at my house all the time. And it's more diverse now, I think, than it was then.
Is it diverse with Hispanic?
Hispanics are starting, their presence is starting to be felt.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the area was so overwhelmingly black?
I think because of the housing that was available. We had two, what we call projects. They were block homes.
Those cinder block homes?
Yes. They were all minority, and the pricing of the homes, I think, met African Americans' budgets better. And a family could have the whole duplex. In fact, I think the Blakes was a large family.
Yeah.
And
that's Gladys Muhammad.
Yes, Gladys Muhammad's family. They were very well kept homes. People treated it as if it was theirs. You know, the grass was cut, flowers were out. It was a very homey atmosphere. And I can remember growing up back then, and it was really a nice place to live. Everybody just chipped in. They were neighbors. You knew who they were. Everybody had children. We all played together in the neighborhood. people maintain their homes. You could leave your doors unlocked at night. We'd sleep on the floor in the summertime in front of the screen door because we didn't have air. You didn't have to worry about all those things. I think when we first moved in, we did not, all the streets were not paved, but that was an effort of my mother, Reverend Davis.
Well, let me ask you, I remember George McCullough making this comment that south side of Western was white and the north side was black, and that you met, his experiences weren't always quite as peaceful, I guess, as yours might have been. Is your recollection that the south side was in about the same condition as the north side of Western?
No, it was developed.
Okay, and it had paved streets?
It had paved streets, yes. What they would do is come out and put oil on the streets to keep the dust down if people complained too much. But they were dust streets, and it was just dirt and gravel. And when cars would go down it, you know, in the summertime, dust would go everywhere. You hang laundry on the line, that was a no-no because it didn't make any difference. And then my mom started working with the neighborhood organizations, with those people downtown who helped make the decisions. I think back in 1957, she was instrumental in developing what is now called the LaSalle Park District Council. And
her name was Annette Brodie.
Annette Brodie,
right.
Yes. And she just believed in helping anybody and everybody that needed help. She was she was a member of NAACP, Urban League. Those are just some of the things that she was almost involved in everything that had a direct impact in LaSalle Park. And as I indicated, she even had one guy, he would oversleep and she'd call him every morning. And she was, whether it be children with education concerns, adults that needed help paying a bill, finding jobs for people. And my mom was just a go-getter, and she'd find a way to get it done. And when these things started happening, then other people started joining in. But she always, whoever the mayor was, Mayor Brodie, as far back as that I can remember, and I'll say she was neither Democrat or Republican, she was independent, because she always felt you have to work with whoever is in charge, is in power. And I think all those people sort of had a hand in guiding her in the right direction to get some of these things accomplished. And she died while Kernan was in office.
I was interested in if you felt like your mom had an informal network of women from the neighborhood that she worked with. What roles do you feel like women played in the activism?
To be very honest, it was mostly all women. They did most of the networking and the actual knocking on doors, and it was mostly women. I think the men were off working so hard that a lot of times they didn't get involved for that reason.
Were some of them stay-at-home moms, or most of them?
I think most of them were stay-at-home moms. My mom especially, because it was during the riots in the 60s, I think it was. And back then, they had a building on Western Avenue when the riots were going on, and she received a call from Common Council for her to get the young black students together and open up the center so they could have a meeting, and someone from downtown was supposed to come out to talk to them to see what the problems were. And they went to the neighborhood center, and there was an incident where 2 individuals got hurt. They pushed my mom in the back room for protection and put file cabinets and things in front of the door, because then it was getting a little bit out of hand. And that was our first experience with anything like that. And from that point on, she just worked diligently with the city and with the kids in the neighborhood. Lynn Coleman, George McCullough, well-known people in the community now. She was a mentor for them, kept them on track, and I think they would tell you the same thing today.
George McCullough has told us that.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Lynn Coleman also.
Yeah, she was everybody's mom. But that was my first exposure to that, and she just worked diligently from that point on. And I was still in school at that time. Jobs were not as open for minorities. I wanted to be a secretary and ultimately in management of something in an office environment. And I was a member of Washington High School's co-op program. And at that particular time, Studebaker was doing a lot of hiring of the students, giving them an opportunity to learn. And my first experience ever with being denied because of my race was I went to interview at Studebaker's for their office, and they told me that they couldn't hire me because my fingers, I was very thin then. My fingers were very thin, and I might hurt myself on the typewriter.
Oh, no. Excuses get to be very ridiculous.
Yes, they told another girl that was there the same thing.
That's the second example. Barbara Brandy, you know Barbara, is another one who felt like there was definite discrimination in the placement. She was at Central, and she had the same experience in the co-op program. You mentioned the lake. The nature of that little body of water has changed also, hasn't it?
Yes.
Could you just tell us a little bit about the area, that geographical area that where the water and the swamp and
Okay,
so forth?
that's pretty.
How did it change?
The lake is really what we term now as LaSalle Park.
Okay.
Its boundaries are Western Avenue
Okay.
to Linden, Sheridan to Meade.
Okay.
That's considered LaSalle Park,
Okay.
which is, those of us back growing up in my age, they will say the lake. It's been called several things, but that's the same general area.
Okay.
The site where they had the block homes is where the Charles Black Center is now.
Okay.
And when those were torn down, that hill that's there now by the Beck's Lake is where they took all of the debris and pushed it and made this hill, because now it's starting to, you can see things starting to wear through it.
Oh, is that?
Yes. And I'm trying to find money to get dirt.
Put back on it?
Yeah, to put back, because that's a landmark for us. Beck's Lake and the hill. I know that Honeywell used to, where the lake is now, Honeywell, which was Bendix at the time, used to dump in there. And it's been tested several times. Charlotte Pfeiffer has been very instrumental in getting that tested for us. And it's not at a level that it's unsafe, because it's a lot of our senior citizens walk over there to fish. But I have had a lot of people ask me, you can afford to move anywhere you want to. You know, why don't you leave the lake? You know, I really can't say, because I really don't think there were that many African American people who wanted to move in to predominantly white neighborhoods.
Okay.
There was a camaraderie in your own neighborhood. I think that was pretty much what you did. You wanted to stay where you grew up. And ultimately I did. Well, as I got older, you know, this is where I was raised. It was a good neighborhood. Just recently we started to have problems when some of the people like my folks moved out or passed on and left it to a younger generation that didn't have that same ethic about wanting to expand it or make it better.
Well, maybe it sounds like your mom's as yours. You're very neighborhood focused. And then to a large degree it was when your parents' generation moved out.
Yes.
That you're the exception to the rule. Their children did not stay in the neighborhood.
Right.
And the properties, because they were difficult to sell, I don't know what it was, the properties became rental properties after that.
By me still living there, I can see the change in the economic environment now. I think on my street there are only 3 or 4 of us who actually own our homes. And the rest of it is rental or vacant. It was really neighborly.
Yeah.
And everybody cared about each other. And you don't find that now. The kids just didn't take care of things like that. And those homes were paid for. So all you do is pay taxes.
Right.
And the turnover in them is just so great. It's just so great.
When did it start to change?
I'm going to say it started to change in the early 1990s and got progressively worse. And right now, I've got a neighbor that just moved in, and I don't even know what her name is. They're not friendly. And you try to, you know, be friendly. Hi, how are you? Are you all moved in? You know, I still look out. If I saw somebody going in the window, I call the police, you know, because it's right next door to me for one. But I'm not in it for anything other than improve my neighborhood. And to be very honest with you, some of the other organizations, some people have personal agendas. And you can't last like that. I don't care if anybody ever heard of Gail Brodie. As long as I can improve the neighborhood that I live in, and I do push because I know how hard my mom worked and all that she gave up for the betterment of the area. She worked very hard at it for 30 years, and she took it very, very personally.
South Bend's Own Words was created by Kevin Tidmarsh and me, George Garner. This episode was produced by Natalie Villalobos and by me through the Indiana University South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center. Visit us and learn how IU South Bend students inspired the transformation of a once segregated South Bend swimming pool. We give guided tours and offer public events that show how the history of oppression echoes through this city today. See and hear more history, plan your visit, or share your thoughts about this episode, all at crhc.iusb.edu.